Grandpa, can you tell me how old you were when you started butchering?
15.
15. And where were you living? Where was that?
Ontario, Oregon. Ontario Meat Company.
We left Jackson Hole in the middle of the first snow in the Grand Teton.
Yeah, I was there 7 years.
I'll check that out before.
Before I went to service.
That was coming. Me and Mama and our new baby boy all wrapped up.
When I was about 10 or 11, there's no meat plant over by the city dump. I hung around there all the time, drugging guts. Pumping water for the hog vat. There was a whole bunch of drunks. So one time they had 7 hogs together. They got 6 of them done. And I had them hanging up, and so it took them long enough to do that last hog. That I had time to wash them all down, shave them, and gut them out, and have them all ready by the time they got that last hog done.
They were so drunk they couldn't get it going.
They're about out of it. Boy, they were so surprised when they came out there and they didn't have to do them hogs. The guy got in his pocket and gave me $3 silver.
Wow.
For doing it 6 hogs. So that was my first big money.
You were hooked right there.
I
I can do this the rest of my life.
I told them all, boy, I'm going to be a butcher for sure.
That road was long, but I was filled with what I call my pride. And inside I believed we would make it.
He lived across the street from a meat company when he was growing up. And, you know, I want to say that he probably started over there when he was 10 or 11.
What year was he?
He was born in 1931.
Life for my sweet loving wife and baby when we got to Vegas. Then luck was thin, but I met a friend, one of the best I'd known.
And so, yeah, he would go over and start helping out, and just gradually picked it up from there. And it worked out well for him a little bit later. When he was 16, he quit school and started working full-time. But at that time, his mom was in a wheelchair. She'd had arthritis, and just like in the matter of a couple of years, she was in a wheelchair. And so he had 2 younger brothers, and his dad had already passed away, so he was in charge of taking care of the family. And it was really, he'd kind of get her set up by the stove there at home, and then he'd go across the street and work and be able to come back and check on her because there was nowhere else for her to go.
But no, when I met Grandpa, I wasn't very much into butchering, you know.
Then it became the family business.
Well, yeah, I kind of grew into it too because when I met Grandpa, he was just driving a truck. You know, he didn't, well, he butchered, but I was in school, and then he had a truck route to deliver meat, and so he'd come up to my town, and after I met him, my mom would sometimes let me go with him at noon from school, and then because he had to go to Baker after he'd come to Vail and deliver meat in the morning, and then he'd have to go to Baker in the afternoon, which was another 80 miles. And so she would let me go with him on the truck, and I'd do the bookwork and collect the money on the truck while he delivered the meat to the people.
Then I rested my head in her arms, and she said she was proud of the things that I'm made of. So I'll be just as strong as any man, just as long as I keep leaning on my sweet woman's love. Yes, I'll be just
My earliest memory is actually, I don't know, I was probably very young, 3-ish, and you guys always talked about the meat plant, and I knew what these two words were, meat and plant, and I was at Alpine, and just the two of us were walking around, and I was literally expecting a plant that grew meat on it, and I was looking for it, and finally I asked you where the meat plant was, and you said, it's all around us, and that was a little bit too big of a concept for me at that age.
lilies grow fine in a mill pond, in the desert cactus bloom.
1981, Dad and Joe bought the meat plant. That's when I was teaching. Maybe it was 1980 they bought it, because they bought it about the same time I started teaching. I started teaching the 79-80 school year up in northeastern Oregon.
In the bottomland, sunflowers found where it's hotter.
And so I taught for 2 years, and when they bought the meat plant, the man who owned it at that time just didn't have much in the way of customer service, and so kind of ran off all the customers, and that's when Dad and Joe bought it. And then they, of course, people knew Dad and Joe. They were real busy for a couple years, and then I came back, married my wife in northeastern Oregon up in Enterprise, and then came back here, and so I quit teaching and came back to run the meat plant.
These lonely eyes that never dry, see heartaches grow like bitter weeds. Heartaches live in salt water, but not the kind that comes from the sea. She planted the seed when she left me,
Joey,
and I've learned.
he come in there and he had the rain gear roll down over and he was so yeah, I'm quitting.
Draw the line right here.
He's on, I'm quitting. I said, what are you gonna do now? I don't know. I said, well, what are you gonna quit for? Well, I'm doing all the work and somebody else is getting all the money.
I tried to take you guys down there, especially you, Sarah, before Denver. Really often. I don't know if it was every day.
We lived really close.
That was the only time we'd see him. You know, was if we came to Alpine. So Dad was always good about taking a little break so he could come see you. Time you got a bee stuck in your nose. So I had to take it out. My dad helped with that.
Did you get out? What did you do?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he got it out. I don't remember how it
The rain and the breeze grow tall.
So it's meat.
My name is Dan Spielman, and I live in Grants Pass, Oregon.
What do you do for a living?
Right now I'm a teacher at Hidden Valley High School. I teach welding and agriculture. Prior to that, for about 22 years, I was manager of Alpine Meat Company, my family's meat company, mainly a custom butchering processing facility here in Grants Pass. Custom butchering is when you go out to someone's farm, and with the way we do it, we have a mobile slaughter truck, and so the truck actually goes out to the farm, butchers the animal, slaughters the animal, brings the carcass into the meat plant, and then the processing is done the way the people who own the beef want it done.
It was, we went from being teachers, we got married, went on our honeymoon, and a week later I became a butcher.
It was going to be just for a little while to help his dad out. His family was a little different than my family, and they worked all the time and together, and
We didn't really know what we were getting into when we came over here, because
I didn't for sure.
I didn't either. You know,
Because they had just bought the business, right?
they'd owned it for 2 years.
Okay.
But when I grew up working there during the summer and everything, I mean, it was, you know, you went home and they closed the door at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and
Because they're younger.
These ones are older?
Mm-hmm.